about women's successes and their journeys and how they achieve their successes. But I know I've talked to a lot of you this week, and everybody has a zillion questions to ask Katie, so we have a long list.
Good.
But first, let's start with the wine.
Okay.
Why don't we first tell about the wine, and it's called Kind of Wild Wine.
Yes, so we're drinking Kind of Wild Wines tonight. This is a wine label that I launched back in June with my co-founders, two brothers, Jordan and Adam Sager, who've been in the wine business like their whole lives, basically. And I've always been a wine drinker, but I found as I got older and after having a baby that even having just one glass the next day, I had a hangover. It was like, I feel like that cloudy, foggy feeling, and I'm sure a lot of you are moms and know that the cloudy, foggy feeling happens even without the wine. So it was like, I wanted my glass of wine at night, but I was like kind of terrified of how I would feel the next day. It was like, am I going to feel even worse after having this? So I started looking more into organic wines, and I thought, well, gosh, for the last 2 decades, I've been so into organic eating. Why haven't I thought about organic drinking? I don't buy conventional grapes because they're dirty dozen, but I'm drinking conventional wines. How's that any different? And the more I looked into it, the more I learned that wine can have like 70 additives in a glass of wine that you're having. And it's one of the only consumables on the market that you don't have to have an ingredient label or nutrition facts. So if you think about it, when you turn the bottle over, you're not seeing any ingredients of what you're drinking. There could be food coloring in your wine. There can be all kinds of things. And then I also learned that I would thought vegan wine, well, of course wine's vegan. Well, no, it can go through dairy, it can go through fish guts, it can go through egg whites, all different things. So, if you have an allergy to any of that, that's also going in there. So I just started learning more and more about it, and that a lot of times it's those additives and preservatives, that's what's causing the hangover. Not so much the alcohol, because one glass, like, gosh, that's not very much. 2 glasses, still not very much. So when I made the switch, I thought, I'm feeling a lot differently. This is kind of amazing. And I met my partners, and we wanted to do this together, and Kind of Wild is something that I've become so passionate about. Because I feel like the more you talk to people, the more you say, hey, do you know what's in that glass of wine you're drinking? They go, I don't want to drink that either.
Right.
And so I think it's going to be like organic food. The more that you learned about eating organically, the more that you just wanted to buy the organic option.
Right.
Now that's what's going to be the same thing with drinking.
Yeah, and I know a lot of us in the room are very concerned about all those things.
Yeah.
And I was on your website, and I love learning about the mission of the brand too.
Right. So we're trying to be very environmentally friendly. We're 1% for the Planet members, and we're globally sourced wine. So we work with different small vineyards all over the world. So our Sauvignon Blanc is from South Africa. Our Gruner, which we're drinking tonight, is from Austria. And what we do is we ship it in pouches to California, bottle it there so that we're not making such a large carbon footprint of bottling in another country and shipping. That way it's much easier. And we bottle it there. We're using lighter weight bottles so that they don't cause as much waste. And if you notice, we don't have foil on the top of the bottle. Our labels are linen.
With that one.
Yeah. We do a linen hemp label with vegetable dyes. So we're trying to think of every little bit and cover what we can to give back, because I think of wine as like a comfort food. And I love comfort food, and I've always said to be comforted by my food, I need to know where it came from, how it was raised, how it got to my plate, and what it's going to do for the future. Mm-hmm. So that's what I want with this wine. And so we called it Kind of Wild because we were like, it's kind of wild that we're doing this, and also rewilding the planet.
That's
the idea.
Yeah, I love that. In terms of going from cook on the kitchen to starting a wine line, that's quite a jump. How did you make that? Like, how did you know what to do?
Well, I think of food and wine as hand in hand. it's like the hip bone connected to the knee bone type thing, you know, I'm eating, I want a good glass of wine to go with what I'm eating. And I've been so interested in the wine business for a really, really long time. And I had looked at other partnerships and thought, like, you know, I don't want a one night stand with somebody. I want a ring. You know, I want my so I wanted to do my own thing, and this just felt so right. And once I met my partners, I knew that this was the business. And I think that in any kind of business, that's what it's about. And collaboration, finding those people that you want to work with that share your passions, share your vision, and
can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you went from West Virginia to a star?
I grew up in this little tiny town. It was only like 2,000 people.
Wow.
And I had very strong females in my life. My mom and dad split up when I was only 2 years old, so it was me and my mom. I mean, my dad was in my life, but it was, you know, primarily me and my mom. We lived in the same neighborhood as my grandparents, my great-grandmother, my great-aunt and uncle. We were a very close family, even though I was the only child and I was this only little kid. I had all these great adults around me. But my mom was a very hard worker, school teacher. I would say if it hadn't been for my grandma, I don't know what she would have done, because my grandma was so supportive. But my grandmother, she went to college when she was in her 50s.
That is so
great. My grandpa got married when she was 16. And so she didn't have the opportunity to go get an education until she was older. And so I was a little girl watching my grandma when she was like 58 go to college.
That is so
and
cool.
she would take me to nursery school and drop me off and go to her classes then and pick me up after. And then she went out and got her own job after that. And actually that was how my grandma introduced my mom to my stepdad, because she worked in his office. That was her job out of college. And the most wonderful stepdad. But it's his birthday today, actually. But so I got to watch these women who worked so hard. And not that they're doing anything in what I do, but just having the confidence to go do that. Like, I can't imagine being 58 and saying, I'm going to go to college and be with a bunch of young people and feel that kind of confidence. So it's just that feeling of you can do whatever you want to do. And that's how my mom always was with me. She would say, if you want to be an astronaut, you can be an astronaut. It was like, I felt like the sky was the limit. I never felt like there was a cap on what I could do, because of her.
That's
so
great.
It was all like my mom and my grandma.
Yeah. So you went to college.
So I went to college. I was a journalism major. I wanted to be a writer. I was always into food. I worked in restaurants all through college. And it was around that time that like Food Network was starting. It was starting to get that little bit of traction. Like I loved watching Emerald and Rachel Ray. And I would read Bon Appetit and Gourmet and Food and Wine. I thought, what if I could be a food writer someday? And Sex and the City was popular. I was like, maybe I'll be a carrier. So I dreamed of New York. And I went to New York for a weekend thinking, I went to look at culinary school. I had this look where I met a rock star and then moved to New York. She had rapidly gone to New York. So that's how I wound up in New York. But then, from there, I started working in a fish market actually when I first moved here. I worked in a fish market in Hamptons, and I started writing for Hamptons Magazine. Like, I still wanted to follow my path, even though my life had taken such a wild turn. I was still following my path of what I wanted to be, which was a food writer. And then I started getting like these little things on TV, and it turned into this career.
And did you have one moment where you're like, oh, I made it, or was it just gradual, those steps the whole way?
You know what's funny is I still don't feel that way. Like, I still don't feel like, oh, I made it. Like, I'll have moments where I'm like, oh, this feels really good. I like it, I wanted to accomplish this, I accomplished it, and that feels great. But I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. That like, I feel like, okay, well, now what's next? I did this, now, okay, what's going to be next? And sometimes I wish that I could just, like settle in success and be like, I guess settle's not the right word, but to find like peace in it and just think like, oh, this moment feels really good. I wanted to accomplish this and this feels really nice. Instead, I think like, okay, this was good, but I'm working on this right now and I want that to happen. And so it's always like,
You're ambitious.
well, yeah, I guess that's what it is. It's ambition.
Yeah. You don't have to apologize for it.
Yes, I guess that's what we all need to learn is to not apologize.
Right,
for being
exactly.
ambitious.
There you go. Love it. So let's talk about the kitchen.
Yes.
What is it like being on the kitchen? So do you work like 9 to 5 every day? Like what is,
I
okay.
have the greatest schedule. Yeah, we're in a group chat and we send pictures to each other and I love these people. Like Jeffrey, Jeff, Sonny, Alec, these people are my family members now. And I feel like they're like my ride or die. Like I love them. I am truly concerned for their happiness, their families, everything. Like I love those people.
So great.
Yeah. But I think the audience feels that too, though.
They're very.
Between you all,
Oh,
like,
yeah,
the
thank
dynamic
you.
between you all
Thank
is
you.
so fun.
And
And I think that's why that show works.
Yeah.
Because, you know, audience members are smart.
And I feel like you're making food that's real, that you would actually have in your kitchen.
Approachable,
Yeah,
yeah.
approachable. You're not using
Yeah.
some like high-tech blender that's,
Right.
you know,
No.
$7,000.
I want a few ingredients and I want it to be good and fast
Yeah.
and delicious.
Yeah.
We've been really into dates at our house lately, and I love these Mitchell dates because they're slightly more expensive than other dates. That they're like kind of bigger, meatier, sweeter. They usually come with the pits, so you take the pit out, and then you just stuff them with cheese. So that's it. That's I have some blue cheese. My other thing is if you want this to be a sweet, like one of our favorites, is to put peanut butter in a piping bag or like in a Ziploc bag and just cut the end off, either for kids like after school or for you. But then if I want to get fancy with the cheese, like either manchego or blue cheese, wrap these in prosciutto and then bake them. And then that's really good. But you can also just eat it just like bacon. It's delicious. And dates apparently do all kinds of good things for you. And if you're having a baby, I've heard that at the end you eat your dates and it helps you go into labor. Like, well, not go into labor, it softens your cervix. I did that at the end. I was eating dates like crazy, and my OB was like, I have never heard of that. But she was like, you've already gained almost 60 pounds. You're highly caloric. If you want to do it, do it. I was like, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Just soften it up. Yeah. You're going to be like, I went to see Katie Lee. Put a piece of cheese on the
Tips, you're so beautiful.
Oh, that's so nice.
Skin, hair, what are your secrets for that?
I try not to do too much. So like, if I'm not working, like I try to just do like a lot of moisturizer. I love face oil. So I'll be all greasy and shiny covered with oil. I usually say that I look like two different people. So there's the person who I really am, and then there's one that's fixed up like this. Yeah, I used to say when I was single that the doorman probably thought that two girls lived in my apartment. Like, who's that girl about 5 o'clock that comes out all dressed up, going on a date? Now my husband gets stuck with the one that's just like dances the oil on the face. Like I color my own hair. Like I don't do a whole lot because, like I said, the lazy thing. It's like, would I rather go sit at the hair salon for 3 hours, or would I rather be at home in my sweatpants watching TV? And usually at home in my sweatpants watching TV.
Got it.
What
Is the win.
Yeah.
I like it.
Apparently drinking a lot of water helps.
Okay. Okay.
I never like hearing somebody say that. Exercise, I think exercise is always good. I feel like my body has changed so much since I had a baby. I'm 2 sizes bigger than I was before I had a baby, but I weigh relatively the same. Maybe it's like a 5-pound difference. It's funny how that happens, right? It's like everything just gets wider. So I think that there's a lot of like self-talk that goes into that. You know, like I'll have those moments where I'm like, God, why can't I wear my old clothes? And like, you know, you start beating up on yourself, and then you have to remember like everything in life is a season. And I'll say to myself like, listen, your job's not to be in a bathing suit on a swimsuit cover, so what does it matter if, you know, 2 sizes bigger than you used to be, and then I felt better. But I do exercise a lot. I exercise about 5 days a week. And my motivation for exercise is different than it used to be. It used to be because I wanted to be skinny and look hot in an outfit and go on a date. Now my motivation is I want to feel strong and be able to carry my daughter around the city and be there for her.
Yeah. 5 days a week is good.
And eat. And the motivation is still wanting to eat.
Right.
Yeah. I'm pregnant with my first child. How do you balance, especially just kind of what you're just talking about with your body? I think it's so weird having all these changes happening to my body, and I do want to raise a really strong, wonderful daughter. But I'm like, you know, I'm like 5 months away from giving birth, and I'm already anxious about like how I'm going to teach her about food and about being strong. But I also know I'm going to be going through my own weird thing of like, okay, how do I get my body back to what it used to be before pregnancy? So if you just have any tips about that, it's like,
really conscious effort to not say in front of her, like, these pants don't fit.
Yeah.
I feel heavy in this, like, even though she's a baby and doesn't really understand, I wanted to get myself in the habit of not talking that way in front of her. And I even tell my husband, like, don't say it that she should eat and enjoy herself. But then I also talk to her about healthy eating too. She doesn't want to eat vegetables, but I let her see me eat them all the time. She eats fruits, but I talk to her and say, like, you should really eat those yellow peppers because you're going to run so strong, you know, so fast, and you're going to be the fastest kid in your class and so strong. So, like, I talk to her about food, about being strong and healthy. And I know everybody's like, oh, be body positive, this, that, and the other. But the realistic thing is, like, we're women. We do have those conversations in our head, and, like, everybody can tell us not to, but we do.
Yeah. And everybody's comparing themselves to what they were 20 years ago. You know,
Yes.
So it's hard.
And how many times have you taken a picture of yourself and go, oh, I look awful in that picture. And 6 months later, you go back and go, I looked good. And, like, I looked at pictures of myself from, like, 6 years ago when I was so little, and I was like, why did I think I didn't look good then? I should have enjoyed it. So just know that, like, in 10 years, you're going to look back on the picture of today and be like, why didn't I enjoy myself? I just started getting frozen salmon and cooking it from frozen without thawing it, and it works great. So if you have frozen salmon, you put it in the oven, 450 for 8 minutes. Take it out, season it, because if you season it before you put it in, it's just raw carbs and nothing will happen. Put it in for 8 minutes, season it, and then put it under the broiler for 8 more minutes, and it's like perfect. Yeah.
Is that only fish or that works with meat too?
No, work with me. Yeah. Unfortunately. I'm not making these like big fancy meals for us every evening because she won't eat them. She likes beef, so like I might make steak and baked potatoes, and like I'll do the potato in wedges for her because she prefers that to the baked potato. So just like simple things. I find just simple cooking. She likes salmon, so we'll do salmon. So we're a lot of like a protein and 2 sides basically, because then everybody's happy.
Does your husband cook?
He does. My husband's a good cook when I let him. I have like a control issue. Yeah, I love to eat, and I love to go out. Like, I love our nights out, and I love trying new restaurants, and I love, like, Italian food. Like, we have some great Italian restaurants. We live in the West Village, so we do tend to go to the same places over and over again that we love, and places that are kid-friendly.
And what about when you're on the kitchen and you actually don't like the food that you're tasting?
It very rarely happens. Like, maybe only, like, 3 times I can think of.
Yeah. And
Or
you have to
didn't like
present
something.
yeah.
Yeah. It'd be like if you went to your friend's house and didn't like what they made.
Like,
And it's not like something's been so awful. There was only one time that something was so bad that everybody spit it out. But it was so funny because everyone collectively hated it. Our producers come up with the different themes for the episodes, And then they put together 6 acts of the show. The first act is always going to be the big hero dish that would be like the main event. And then everything is broken up into that. So they assign who's going to get which act it's going to be. We'll have a call and they'll say, okay, so you're doing act 1. It's a game day meal. We'd really love to do something buffalo chicken. What would be some of your ideas? So I'll give like 3 different ideas, and then they'll come back to me and say, okay, we loved your idea for a buffalo chicken pizza, so let's go with that. So then I'll go develop the recipe, write the recipe, test it, send it back, and then it's like putting pieces of a puzzle together, right? When you said,
Yes.
yeah. And so then they fit it all together, because like I'll have to give multiple ideas, because for the other acts, and they have to see how it all fits together and makes the show. Like if I was going to make a beef dish and Jeff wanted to make a beef dish in the same episode, then it would be too much beef. So, but I also gave an idea for a pork dish, so they'll put it together like that.